Let me start by saying I wasn't trying to catch her. I wasn't snooping or pulling a Sherlock Holmes move. I just forgot my damn wallet. That's it. If I hadn't left it in the laundry room, I would still be living in a delusion. And maybe that would have been better. It was a Tuesday. I had left for work around 8, but halfway to the office I realized I left my wallet at home. My ID, my cards, everything. So I turned around, told my assistant I'd be late, and came back. Quietly. Like I always do. Instead of using the front door, I slipped in through the side, the one that leads to the garage. Figured I'd grab my wallet and head out without bothering Mandy. She usually works from the kitchen in the mornings, laptop open, coffee half finished, hair up in that messy bun I used to think was cute. But when I stepped into the house, I heard her voice. Not the casual, "Hey babe, you're back early" voice. No, this one was tense, whispered, nervous. I paused in the hallway just outside the kitchen, wallet completely forgotten. She was on the phone. If he finds out, we're both screwed. No, listen, I only used his signature once, maybe twice. Everything else was clean. It was for us. You said you had it covered. I felt my stomach drop. She sounded like someone plotting a prison break, not a married woman in yoga pants talking to a friend. My first thought? She's cheating? Second? Gambling? I didn't know. I didn't want to know. I just stood there frozen like an idiot. Don't panic. He's at work. I made sure. He never comes home this early. Oh, the irony. I should have walked in. I should have confronted her right there. But I didn't. I backed out the way I came, got in my car, and sat in the driveway for a full minute, trying to process what I just heard. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. She forged my signature. For us. Whatever the hell that meant. I didn't go back to work that day. I drove around, parked by the lake, thought about everything. Our 10 years of marriage, the shared accounts, the trust, the way she always said, "You're so lucky to have me." Maybe I was, but now all I could think was, what the hell did she do with my name? I didn't drive straight back to the office. I just drove around the block, down a road I hadn't taken in months. Ended up in a church parking lot of all places, staring out the windshield like it could explain what the hell I'd just heard. My wife forged my signature. She said, "We'll both go to jail." And I was supposed to believe this was about what? A surprise party budget gone rogue? I got back home that evening like nothing happened. Walked in through the front door, jingled my keys a little louder than usual. "Oh, there's my early bird," she said from the kitchen, standing there barefoot, plating roasted chicken like we were a Norman Rockwell painting. "You must be starving." "You wouldn't believe the day I had," I said, forcing a smile. "How was yours?" She leaned over, kissed my cheek. "Mellow, yoga, a few emails, laundry, boring wife things." I sat at the table and nodded. Boring sounds pretty good these days. She poured me a glass of wine, my favorite, which she usually forgets, and asked how the project on 8th Street was going. I gave her half answers, chewed slow, and tried not to look like I was studying her every blink. Later, when she disappeared upstairs for her now mandatory nightly bubble bath, candles, wine glass, book, whole production, I grabbed my laptop and sat at the kitchen island, the scent of eucalyptus still floating in the air. I started simple. Our joint account, groceries, gas, Netflix. Then I flipped to my personal account, the one I opened before we were married, the one I barely used anymore because shared money is married money, as she liked to say. There they were. 2 transfers, $15,000 each, 3 weeks apart, labeled Investment Transfer, Globestar Holdings. I frowned. What the hell is Globestar? A quick search turned up the kind of site that looked like it hadn't been updated since 2006. Then I found an article buried in some financial forum. Globestar Holdings, offshore wealth protection in Seychelles. Zero tax liability, often used in laundering and tax evasion cases. My blood went cold. I opened more statements, started digging, found loan applications with my name and signature that I never filled out, Payments to names like Jonathan Reese and Mills Strategic Partners. 10,000 here, 8,000 there. Everything just under a threshold, just under suspicious. A whisper of a scam. Nothing loud, nothing obvious, but something wrong. Around midnight, Mandy came down in her robe. "You're still up?" she asked, feigning surprise. "Thought you'd be passed out on the couch by now." "Couldn't sleep," I muttered, quickly minimizing the browser window. Too much on my mind. She walked behind me and wrapped her arms around my neck, chin on my shoulder. "Oh, poor thing. Overthinking again?" "Maybe," I said, swallowing hard. She smelled like lavender and deception. She kissed the top of my head and whispered, "Come to bed soon, okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just 5 more minutes." As she walked away, I watched her reflection in the microwave door. Calm, carefree, untouchable. And all I could think was, "You've been busy, Mandy." The next morning, I skipped the gym and took my coffee straight to the dining table. Laptop open, headphones in, heart still stuck somewhere between panic and fury. I couldn't stop thinking about that name, Jonathan Reese. It sounded familiar, not in the "we've had beers together" kind of way, but like something half-forgotten tucked in the back of a drawer I hadn't opened in years. I pulled up the bank transfers again. 5,000 to J. Reese Consulting, 8,000 2 weeks later. Then another 3 under Strategic Services. Same account, same pattern? Consulting? Really? I searched the name. It took a while. There are a lot of Jonathan Reeses out there. A chiropractor, a real estate agent, a motivational speaker with suspiciously white teeth. But then I found him. The LinkedIn photo hit me like a hammer to the gut. Tight smile, buzzed haircut, cheap suit, and that smug little dimple that used to piss me off even back in college. Mandy's ex. The one she used to call a beautiful disaster. The one she said was good in bed and bad for everything else. I remembered how she told me they ended things on ugly terms. Said he borrowed money, cheated, and once crashed her car while drunk. She even said he got arrested once for fraud. Now he was apparently a consultant, and my wife was paying him. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the kitchen tilt. A cold, ugly feeling crawled up the back of my neck. It wasn't random. It wasn't some accidental wire to a shady firm. She was working with him. And worse, she was using my name to do it. Later that night, I played it cool again. We were on the couch, a movie playing in the background. Something she picked, some forgettable rom-com with actors that looked like Instagram filters come to life. She curled up next to me, head on my shoulder. "You've been quiet lately," she said, tracing lazy circles on my arm. "Everything okay at work?" I smiled. "Just thinking about some financial stuff. Gonna meet with a guy next week. See what's going on with our accounts." She paused, then sat up a little. "Everything's fine, right?" I looked at her. That flawless face, that well-practiced mask. "I'll let you know once I talk to the expert," I said softly. "Could be nothing. Could be something." She nodded slowly, then gave me a kiss on the cheek. I smiled back. But inside, something broke, because now I knew. This wasn't just financial fraud. This was betrayal, personal, surgical, designed with a smile. And the part that made my blood boil the most? She thought I was too stupid to notice. I didn't sleep much after that. You'd think the hardest part would be discovering the betrayal. But no. The hardest part is pretending you don't know. Pretending everything's normal when your blood's boiling under your skin. And Mandy? She made it easy. She was so busy keeping her secrets that she never noticed I'd started keeping mine. That week, I reached out to an old buddy from college, Eric. He's a financial forensic analyst now, the kind of guy who loves spreadsheets like most people love puppies. I didn't give him the full story, just said I had some suspicious transfers and wanted a second pair of eyes. He agreed to meet over lunch. I slid the documents across the table, printouts, dates, transaction logs, photos of the supposed consulting invoices, all downloaded from our joint email archive she probably forgot I had access to. Eric scanned them, then stopped at the name J. Reese Consulting. He looked up at me, eyebrows raised. This guy is shady as hell. I leaned back. Yeah? Jason, this isn't consulting. These are shell transfers. The invoices are templated. The file data's inconsistent. Looks like someone Googled how to write a professional invoice and just ran with it. You said your wife authorized these? She said nothing, I replied. But the accounts are joint. My name's on half of this, and that signature on the loan form? Not mine. Eric nodded slowly. You need a lawyer, now, and save everything. Screenshots, emails, phone records, anything with a trail. I'd already started. When I got home that evening, Mandy was in the kitchen again. She had candles lit, wine poured, Billie Eilish humming softly from the speaker. It was one of those nights where she tried to be extra charming, like she was compensating for something. You've been so tense lately, she said, handing me a glass. Thought I'd do something nice. Thanks, I said, taking a sip and smiling. You always know how to keep things balanced. She laughed. I try. Inside, I was boiling. That same night, while she slept, I installed a discreet little audio recorder behind the bookshelf in her home office. It synced to my phone. I knew it was risky. I also knew it was necessary. 2 days later, while I was at work, I got a ping. Liv feed. She was on the phone. Mandy. No, listen. He's been quiet. I think he bought it. Just act normal until we finalize the shift. Jonathan, stop panicking. If we move it all this week, it's clean. The lawyer said he can't trace Globestar if we play it right. Jonathan. I don't trust him. What if he finds out? Mandy, lowered voice. If he finds out, we'll both go down, so stay smart. There it was again. If he finds out. She had no idea. I wasn't just finding out. I was 10 steps ahead and counting. Friday night. I told her I'd make dinner. I don't usually cook, not because I can't, but because Mandy always insisted she enjoyed it more. But this time I wanted control over every detail, the timing, the setting, the mood. I grilled salmon, opened a bottle of wine from the rack she usually hoards for special occasions, set the table for 2, lit the candles, even folded the napkins like we were having a damn anniversary. She came downstairs in one of those flowy, off-the-shoulder blouses she wore when she wanted something. Soft makeup, little gold necklace, all charm. Well, don't you look suspiciously romantic, she said with a grin. I smiled. Thought we deserved a little quiet time. She tilted her head, curious but pleased. What's the occasion? You'll see. We sat, talked about the weather, work. Nothing stuffy, just small talk sprinkled with tension I knew only I could feel. She was sipping her wine like it was any other night. I waited until dessert. I had printed everything earlier, a folder tucked neatly by my chair, labeled in bold, truth. I slid it across the table. She blinked. What's this? Something sweeter than cheesecake, I said. Go ahead, open it. She opened the folder. First page, the fake consulting invoices. Second, copies of the forged loan forms. Third, screenshots of her emails and wire transfers to Globestar Holdings. And finally, the transcript from the audio recording. If he finds out, we'll both go down. Her face dropped like someone had cut the strings. Color drained. Shoulders stiffened. Jason, she whispered. I leaned forward. Calm. Dead calm. You wanted me to stay in the dark. You thought I wouldn't ask questions. You thought I'd keep eating your dinners and paying your bills while you funneled money to your ex-boyfriend under my name. Wait, she looked up, desperate. It's not what you think. No? I tilted my head. Because what I think is that you committed bank fraud, laundered money through offshore accounts, and used me as the patsy. And Jonathan? The guy who almost totaled your car and borrowed rent money from your parents? He's your business partner now? She stood up fast. Jason, let's just talk. Please, we can fix this. I didn't move. You already talked, Mandy, with him, on a call you thought no one heard. Don't bother lying now. I have the whole thing recorded." She stared at me, frozen. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "You recorded me?" "Oh, don't look so offended," I said, rising from my seat. "You committed crimes and I live in a two-party consent state. And guess what? You consented the moment you left your phone on speaker in our house." Tears welled in her eyes, a cocktail of fear and disbelief. "Please," she whispered. "Don't go to the police. We can handle this privately. I'll fix it. I'll return everything." I walked over and picked up the folder. Too late. Her lips trembled. "What do you mean?" "I already handed copies to my lawyer. And this morning?" I held up my phone, displaying an email. "It went to the DA's office." Her knees buckled, and she gripped the back of the chair. "You wanted me to never find out, Mandy," I said, turning away. "But here's the thing, I did, and now we both know exactly what you deserve." After I dropped the bomb, she just stood there, frozen, like a statue carved out of bad decisions. Tears finally came. Not the quiet, dignified ones either, the ugly, snot-choked sobs that come with panic, real panic. The kind you feel when your carefully spun web just goes up in flames. She reached for me. "Jason, please, please don't do this. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I didn't know how to stop," Jonathan said. "He said we just needed a few months." I stepped back. "Don't say his name again." "But I love you," she said, voice cracking. "It was never about him, not really. It was about us, about the life we could have had if we just had a little more." I laughed. I actually laughed. "Is that what you tell yourself to sleep at night? That you were stealing for us? That you were laundering cash with your ex-boyfriend because it was somehow a gift to our marriage?" She dropped to her knees. "Jason, please, I'll give it back. Everything, every cent. I'll sign whatever you want. I'll close every account. Just don't ruin me." I looked down at her, shaking my head. "You ruined yourself, Mandy." She didn't say anything after that. Just stayed on the floor, a mess of tears and mascara, while I picked up the plates and calmly scraped her untouched cheesecake into the trash. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't try to. She stayed in the guest room, lights off, door closed. But I knew she wasn't sleeping either. You don't sleep the night before your whole life collapses. And the next morning, she folded. She knew she couldn't talk me down, so she tried someone else. I was sitting on the deck, coffee in hand, staring out at the lawn I no longer cared to mow, when a dark blue Mercedes pulled up to the curb. I didn't even have to see his face. I felt it. Jonathan. He stepped out like he was walking into a business pitch. Casual blazer, fake calm, forced smile. He spotted me and raised both hands like we were old college buddies catching up. "Jason, man, look, can we talk?" I stayed seated. "Funny, I've got a lawyer who really wants to talk to you." He chuckled nervously, stepping closer. "Listen, I know how this looks, all right? But it got out of hand. Mandy told me you found out, and I swear, we were planning to fix it. The money's still there, most of it. We can wire it all back. Just don't go nuclear, man." "Nuclear?" I sipped my coffee. "Jonathan, I'm not going nuclear. I'm following the law. You know, that thing you and Mandy decided doesn't apply to you." He sat on the railing like he belonged there. "You don't need to blow this up. Nobody has to go to jail. We put everything back, dissolve the account, you walk away clean. Everyone wins." I set the mug down. "Everyone? You think I'm trying to win?" He stared at me, confused. I leaned forward. "This isn't a game. You used me. You forged my name, opened debt in my identity, and funded your little island scam with my life. And now you show up, what? Hoping I'll give you a second chance because you smiled nice in your LinkedIn photo?" He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "Don't answer that. You had your chance to do the right thing. You chose Mandy. She chose you. And now I've chosen me." He tried one last pitch. "We'll return it. All of it." I stood up. "I hope you do. It'll look better in court." His jaw clenched, but he didn't say another word. He got in his car, peeled off, no handshake, no goodbye. Mandy watched from the upstairs window. I didn't look up. Let them squirm. They still thought this was negotiable. By Monday, it was official. My attorney had filed the motion to dissolve the marriage, citing financial fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and identity misuse. Basically, I hit every legal landmine she'd ever stepped on, and I made sure the DA's office had copies of everything. Mandy tried to pretend we were still in some kind of marital gray zone. She cooked breakfast. She left me coffee with those little post-it notes she used to doodle hearts on. I ignored all of it. She'd ask questions like, "Do we really have to do it this way?" Or, "Can't we at least talk before involving strangers?" I'd look her in the eye and say, "No, Mandy, we're way past talk." Her face would crumble a little more each time. The day after the divorce filing, her lawyer, some flashy-looking guy with a designer briefcase and perfect teeth, called mine and said, "We're willing to negotiate a private settlement to avoid exposure." Exposure, that was their concern. Not guilt, not shame, just bad press. My response? "See you in court." Because I wasn't interested in settlements. I wasn't interested in silence. I wanted the truth. Every dollar traced, every signature exposed, every lie documented, public, permanent. The next few weeks were chaos, subpoenas, financial reviews, depositions. Mandy was forced to sit through hours of recorded statements where her voice, her actual voice, admitted to forgery, fraud, and offshore laundering. At one point, I was called in for a meeting with a federal financial crimes investigator. He looked at the stack of evidence and said, "Most people don't catch this in time. You're lucky." I shook my head. I don't feel lucky. But I did feel something close to free. And Jonathan? He tried to ghost the process at first, blocked numbers, no-shows, fake addresses, but eventually the threat of a federal arrest warrant got his attention. He showed up with a nervous smile and a lawyer who looked like she regretted taking the case 5 minutes in. Mandy sat across from me during mediation, pale, shaky, dressed like she was auditioning for pity. But there was no hiding from what she'd done. She tried one last Hail Mary as we left the courtroom that day. "Jason," she called after me, voice trembling, "if I told you I was sorry, truly sorry, would it matter?" I paused at the door, then turned to face her. "No," I said, "because you're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry I found out." She didn't follow me. She couldn't. That door had closed, and this time it was locked from my side. 3 months later, I stood on the back deck of a new house, smaller, quieter, but mine. No more shared closets, no more shared lies, just me, a mug of black coffee, and a view of pine trees instead of courthouse parking lots. The divorce was finalized. The judge had no sympathy for Mandy's crocodile tears or creative accounting. Half her assets were frozen. The rest went straight to paying off the damage she and Jonathan caused under my name. She avoided prison, barely. Her lawyer pushed a plea deal, and she took it. Community service, probation, fines that'll bleed her dry for the next 10 years. But the felony will follow her everywhere. Jonathan? Not so lucky. Turns out this wasn't his first time dancing with fraud. With my evidence and a prior on his record, the prosecution tore him apart. He took a deal too, but he's spending real time behind bars. Maybe there, he'll finally learn what accountability means, though I wouldn't bet on it. As for Mandy, she tried reaching out after everything. Once, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but I knew her handwriting, flowery and full of guilt. She said she woke up too late, that she'd lost her way, that she hoped one day I'd remember the good times and not just the betrayal. I read it once, then I lit it on fire and dropped the ashes into the sink. Closure doesn't come from them. It comes when you finally stop needing anything from them. Not an apology, not revenge, not even answers. I've since rebuilt my business, hired new accountants, built better walls around my finances and my heart. I started running again, sleeping better, laughing sometimes, just because I can. And every now and then, someone asks if I miss her. I don't. I miss the version of her I thought I married, but that version never existed. And now, I don't look back. Not when the road ahead is this damn clear.